Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Matsuno from the Man in Japan channel here in Bangkok, Thailand. This is my last day here in Thailand. I'll be flying out tonight and I'll be returning to Japan I'll be in Japan tomorrow morning. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. If any of you are out there, if you could, as I always ask, just write a comment if the audio and the video is okay. Just want to make sure. And make sure that the internet is working okay. So I finally made it to Bangkok. I've been here this past week. Bangkok is also one of my favorite cities, in Asia, in the world actually. Bangkok basically has something for everyone, and if you have money, you pretty much can get anything and anything that you can get outside of Bangkok. I mean, if you have the money, you can get anything you want pretty much here in Bangkok from, different countries, from whether it's furniture or food or whatever. It has a really high, oh, hi J Star, thank you. Audio and video is perfect, great. So again, the Thailand internet is super strong. And again, I said this before, but compared to Japan, in my apartment, which I pay quite a bit for, it's actually better like in all the different parts of Thailand. Now I heard in rural areas in Thailand that it's not that good and it's kind of a bit weak. But in the cities that I've been in, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, and here in Bangkok, it's really, really good. And I hope that Japan will beef up their infrastructure for a better internet experience. And maybe it's because I live in an apartment in Japan, and I explained this once before, is that you don't get the direct line what you pay for. If it's an apartment complex, the internet servers, I guess, feed into the apartment, and then it's kind of divided among the different rooms in Japan, which is strange to me because you're paying for it. Now, if you have a separate house, it's completely different from being in an apartment or a condominium or a mansion. Mansion is the equivalent of condominium in Japan. So again, great internet here. Thanks, J-Star, for letting me know. So I started off in Chiang Mai for 1 month studying Thai. Then I spent 4 nights in Chiang Rai and visited many different temples and my friend's meditation center in Chiang Rai. I went to Phuket, stayed with a friend there for 4 nights, enjoyed that. It reminded me a lot of Hawaii. And I spent my last 7 nights or 7 nights here in Bangkok. And so in 6 weeks, I'll first talk about Bangkok a little bit, but then I will go back and just give you kind of my impression of, I am a layman. I don't know very much at all, but after 6 weeks in Thailand, what my own summary and personal opinions are of Thailand. So first, as I said before, Bangkok is one of the most amazing cities, probably one of the most attractive cities in Asia. Because as I said before, you could get pretty much everything. As long as you have, the money, you can live quite well, very well if you have the money in Bangkok. And that's why a lot of expats retire here. You can get around with English. You basically don't need Thai. Of course, if you have Thai, the more Thai you have, the richer and the more colorful your experience would be. But basically here and in Phuket and maybe in Chiang Mai, you really don't need Thai to get around. Although I am a proponent for studying Thai or any local language wherever you live, because that's the only way you get to know the people, right? That's the only way you can feel and try and become closer to the culture that you're living in. But if you don't want to, you don't need to. So a lot of expats here in Bangkok. And you can get all the foods of the world, right? All the different kinds of international food, and it's still at a quite reasonable price. Yes, it is pricey compared to street food, of course, but compared to other cities at that, like let's say you get Chinese food or Italian food at that level, say let's compare it to Tokyo, Seoul, Singapore, it's still much more, and Hong Kong, much more reasonable here in Thailand. So it's really a foodie's paradise. It's a traveler's paradise here in Thailand. So this week I got to see some friends from Actually, you know what's interesting is that I was the international center director at Osaka Gakuen University for 10 years, and I had set up several exchange agreements and MOUs and things, with about 100 partners. And out of all 100, Bangkok University is the only one that still kind of remains with me as far as I'm still in contact with their staff and things. So it's very interesting. Yes, like I have one good friend, Sammy, from Canada, Vancouver, Canada, and he runs a school there, but different from like a university. But as far as just university connections from 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, Bangkok University is the only one that I still remain in contact with. For example, this week I met with the Japanese teacher the former Japanese teacher of Bangkok University, Yokoyama Sensei, and there, with one of their exchange students to Osaka Gakuen, Eng-sang, we met, three of us, and Eng-sang is the greatest example of what an exchange can do for you. She went to our university with zero Japanese. She studied a little bit with Yokoyama Sensei, but she was doing kind of like more to know about the place and the culture and things. She got some Japanese, but not very much. And so she goes to our program, and after a year, her level is probably intermediate, but she's good and she's serious. She comes back. She's able to get a job working for a JETHRO, that's a Japanese government, job connecting organization. And then she worked there for a while. She was the first Thai person to be accepted as a permanent employee. Like people before that was only on contract because she was so diligent and her Japanese got better. And then she moved to another government agency, Japanese government agency down at the harbor, and that where she works now. And her Japanese, I'm amazed. We met this last time, was better than mine. So also she married a Japanese gentleman, Mr. Tanaka. So that helped, of course, but working in Japanese every day. So she's an example of what a study abroad experience can do for you. Her whole future has changed. Her whole potential and ability and everything had changed with that. So, I met with both Yokoyama Sensei and Eng-sang together, and the former president of Bangkok University, Dr. Matana, and Siriwan Sensei, the person who was the vice president and in charge of all international programs and things. They invited me for lunch, and I had lunch in a beautiful Sukote, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, beautiful dim sum restaurant. And I was really touched because after being out of Osaka Gakuen University for about 9 years now, a lot of times people are your friends or contacts when you're in your job, right? And once you leave the job, you kind of lose them. But here, the former president and City One Sensei still invited me to have lunch with them this past Wednesday, I think it was. And that's really, for me, it was very touching. That means that the connection was between us was very good and very strong, and it wasn't just because of the job or they needed something or they wanted something or anything. It wasn't transactional, it was personal. So it was very nice. And it's strange to me that really, I haven't traveled that much after leaving Osaka Gakuen University, but Bangkok University people are the only ones that really still stay in contact with me. And when I come, even when I came 2 years ago, I did meet, we're five, there's some professors and Sue, the professor, Siriwan Sensei, they all got together for me. That's really nice, So anyway, my point is there's something about Thailand, and there's something that, whether it's me personally or whether in general, it's just the Thai people are very hospitable. They remember they remember, and they're very good friends. Anyway, thank you to Bangkok University. So anyway, I was able to meet them, and I met my other friend. This shirt, as you can see, is suika. It says suika. Suika is the Japanese word for watermelon, tangmo in Thai, and that's my friend's factory. One of the most successful T-shirt factories, probably they were the most successful back a while. They started over 50 years ago, and I was able to meet him, the founder, a couple nights ago. Had a great talk. So yeah, connections in Thailand was very good. So Bangkok was a nice place to see friends, and also I went to visit several markets and things. But anyway, just to give you an example of what I was doing, but I'm going to talk a little bit about Bangkok. As I said before, it has everything. Um, I want to talk about customer service a little bit. This is not only in Bangkok, but in general. Customer service in Thailand is extreme, I think. This is my opinion now. It's really, really good. Like if you stay at the Oriental Hotel or you go to a nice, a Thai restaurant or whatever, it's really, really good. But what I found is, and I've said this before in one of the I think the Chiang Mai live stream, where when I went to the school, people have like no affect when I go. Like I'm the customer when I first go in, right before I even sign up, and there's no like greeting. There's no like, oh, come in. Yes, they did help me and they did take care of my processing of my registration now. But what I'm saying is that certain levels of service, extreme or not good, and there's not much in between. And that's really interesting comparing to Japan, which is always, almost always, 99.9% of the time, really good. People acknowledge you, people smile, people bow. But in Thailand, the top level is great, right? That's like Thai Airways, right? That's like the best of the best. But they have a group down here who are usually working for government agencies, or they're working at 7-Eleven or even like Dairy Queen. City One Sense was telling me that there was something on the internet about the service was so poor in Thailand at Dairy Queen and 7-Eleven. And I have had that 7-Eleven experience where in Chiang Mai, every morning I would go and see the same lady. I'd go in at like 5:30 and maybe she was doing her accounting or whatever. Whenever she saw me, she made this kind of like, almost like sourpuss face, like, what are you doing here? Kind of feeling, right? Every morning. And she knows what I'm going to get. And I got to repeat myself what I'm going to order, the signature coffee and it was, not the most friendliest. I always felt like, oh, I'm sorry for bothering you to buy something from you. This is at the 7-Eleven. And every day for almost, like 30 days, right? So that was kind of bothering me. And I was talking to Siriwan Sensei and Dr. Matan about this, and they were saying that 7-Eleven actually has a training system, like McDonald's. They have a training system, like a manual, but maybe some are franchise, some are actual under 7-Eleven, because in Thailand, 7-Eleven dominates, probably 98%. I saw maybe two others, Lawson 108, and I saw another one. City One Sensei told me about Turtle. The BTS, the SkyTrain, has in there, only in the BTS stations, it's called Turtle, like turtle, rabbit and turtle. And they're really good, she said. And I went into one yesterday just to check it out, and they were fine. Again, I also went to a Dairy Queen yesterday at the the market I went to, and they were fine too. So again, it could be hit or miss, but overall, I was not impressed by, like the people who work at businesses, like 7-Eleven, I guess Dairy Queen. I went to see the Dairy Queen yesterday and they were fine, so I don't have any evidence or proof of that. But again, in my experiences, or at the school, or, anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts there. Another thing is that transportation in Bangkok itself, you have to, if you possible, you want to be able to use the SkyTrain, that's the BTS, or the MRT, which is the subway. Those are the two main lines, public transportation lines in Bangkok, and it's very convenient. And so if you're going to get a hotel, my only suggestion is you get it close to one of the station like a MRT or a BTS, that's a SkyTrain. And most people stay in the Sukhumvit area. That's where, especially for men, that's the nightlife area, the bars, the drinking, all, tons of massage shops. And the shopping is right next door. So right there, you have that Sukhumvit area. That's where most of the people stay. But it's much more expensive. But again, if you have, if you don't mind spending money, you can get as nice a hotel as you want, or you can get as low a hotel as you want. It's a little bit away from the station though, but you can get a cheaper hotel. So Sukhumvit area is where most people stay. I'm staying outside. First time I'm staying here. It's Chong Nonsi, which is just off. But what is interesting is the way people make it sound is like, wow, I'm staying far away, right? From the main area, which is the Sukhumvit area. But when I take the train, okay, I have to walk 10 minutes to the station, and I take the BTS, and I have to transfer at Siam. So it's 3 stops. That's a 7, 8 minute ride. And then I have to transfer, and then the transfer is quite quick. And then I get to, let's say, Sukhumvit in maybe another, 8 minutes. So maybe 15 minutes on the train, transfer time, and walking time. It's shorter than in Japan. So it's like, I'm thinking, everybody talks about like, wow, how far it is. It's not far if you live in Japan and you got to use the train. I take an hour, almost 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes from my apartment to my company before. That's riding the bicycle, 2 kilometers, getting on the train. This one was a one-shot deal, but a lot of times I have to transfer. So again, as long as you are in close distance to one of the stations. Now, it can be far, you can be far away down the MRT line or something. You want to be, still within the city limits, but it's not that hard. It's not that far. So you can get actually decent hotel or a cheaper hotel if you stay outside of the Sukhumvit area and just take the train in. People, it was more about convenience, right? To stay at the Sukhumvit area, whether it was men and the nightlife, and then they wanted to be close within walking distance, or the shopping that you want to shop and you want to walk back to your hotel. In that case, yeah, you can stay at the Sukhumvit area. But outside of that, you can stay just outside and have a nice hotel, decent hotel, at a very reasonable price. So that's another thing that I really learned about. So going back to the customer service, what was interesting for me is Thailand is known as the land of smiles, right? And yes, the people who smile, it's beautiful, right? I was at a restaurant last night getting one of those cards. It was like a food court. It was a nice food court. And the receptionist there had the most beautiful smile. She greeted me warmly. She talked to me in English. And, so those who smile, or those at the higher level, it is the land of smiles. But those who are down here at the lower service level, who don't have any effect, who look at you like, why are you even here, kind of thing, they give a really negative impression, right? So I would call, yes, maybe you call Thailand the land of smiles, but if you use Japan, I would call Japan the land of service. Nobody can beat Japan. And even the land of smiles is no competition for Japan as far as when you talk about overall service. Japan's attention to detail, Japan, acknowledging that you're there. Somebody at least looking at you, smiling, not avoiding you, or not just looking at the computer screen and not trying to avoid you. That doesn't happen usually in Japan. Almost always, people acknowledge, or at least bow, or at least make eye contact. So very, very different service. So I always thought Thailand high service level because of the smiles. Not necessarily. It depends on what level you are, and of course it depends on who you meet. And the people who own their own business in Thailand, of course, the shops, if you go to the market and things, they're really outgoing and assertive and friendly because it's their business and they want to make a sale. So it's completely different. But people who work for other people in certain organizations and shops, I think you will see that too if you come to Thailand. English, I have to say, and at first, when I used to come on business trips, everybody spoke English. I was in Bangkok, right? Not thinking that, okay, maybe I'm living at a hotel and everyone speaks English. But after 6 weeks in Thailand, the English level of the Thais are way, way better than the Japanese. And so I was thinking like, why? Is it because they get so many tourists here? That could be one reason, that especially in the tourist industry. However, when I ask people about how long people study in Thailand, apparently, and I checked on the online just to make sure, they start from first grade and they go through university. It's kind of a required subject all the way through. Where in Japan, they started, I think, third grade this year, and it goes up and then through the university if you continue to take, right? So not too much difference as far as total years. But what I think it is, and I don't know, and maybe someone in the comments can help if you know the answer, is that how they teach English in Thailand must be very different from in Japan. In Japan, they teach us as an academic subject where you focus on the reading and the writing. not on the speaking or listening. I would like to know, do the Thai students, is it more interactive? Is it more oral and spoken? Or is it like Japan, writing and speaking? Because I have to conclude now that it must be different. They cannot be teaching the same way. As far as intelligence level, it's not about intelligence here. It's not about having your language more similar to English, like Spanish to English. Thai is super hard, Thai language. And Japanese is hard too, right? So not anything close to English at all. If anything, English seems to be closer to Japanese, especially when Japanese uses a lot of English words, right? Like kurasis or this is megane, but like um, computer, computer is computer or something. You know, Thai in Thai language they have some of these words. For example, the fruits. I think there were like three fruits that were similar. You know, but as far as I'm going to the comments now because my research is the language productivity of such points. Let me take. Yes, yes, yes. Chaos Kara in the comments wrote, um, Japan loves its own language and culture. My research on language proficiency often points to dubbing and such. Countries which dub everything in their own language and do everything in their own language lag behind those two. Chaos, that's what I said in a previous live stream is that a lot of the countries like, especially in like Europe, the smaller countries, I think like Finland, Czech Republic, they don't dub everything in because their population is small, so it's not such a big business. But in Japan, almost everything is dubbed into Japanese, which is a great service for the Japanese. But as you said, it affects the language learning. So definitely, thank you. That's exactly what I had thought before. So English is less useful when everything's in Japanese. Yes, it's hard to fix. Yes, maybe cannot fix. I don't know. So thank you, Kaos. Exactly what I thought about the English being dubbed in on. They don't have a chance to get used to the sound or everything. I don't know Thai TV if everything is dubbed or not either. But what I do know is that almost everyone can do at least bits and pieces. Even like the security guard at the BTS or whatever, when I ask, he can give me a short phrase or tell me where I'm going. Of course, he hears it every day, probably questions from foreigners. But it's not only him. Like in Japan, I was thinking, okay, at the JR station, do those security guards, even try to speak English? They might point or they try, but it's like a struggle. It's a struggle for them. But in Thailand, I felt that I'm not saying everyone's fluently speaking, but I'm saying is that they're able to respond quite quickly and in nice English, okay English, not so accented like a lot of the Japanese English. Now again, maybe I didn't spend enough time in Thailand, only 6 weeks, but that's my conclusion is that the Thais speak better English, at least in pieces. I'm not talking about academic English, but I'm talking about like talking to someone or understanding or responding better, much better than the Japanese. In Japan, you're always looking around, right? If you don't speak Japanese, you're looking for someone, and they're out there, but there are few of them. And it also could be the Japanese nature too, that they hold back or they hesitate to help or reach out. The risk factor we talked about before in the live stream is that Japanese are not risk takers they're not assertive, so they're maybe not going out to say, oh, hi, do you need help? I'm not saying that the Thais do that either, but in all my experiences, I'm asking I remember I was in Chiang Mai riding my bicycle, lost, going to the Great White Buddha on the hill, and I am on the turning lane, and I don't know if I should turn right or go straight because the White Buddha is kind of in between. So I'm standing on my motorbike there, my bicycle, and all around me are motorbikes, right? Motorcycles or motorbikes. And I'm on my bicycle, right? Of course, only the foreigners are riding the bicycle, right? And next to me, so I don't know what to do. So I just turned to the lady next to me. She has glasses. She's a Thai lady on her motorbike. And I said, excuse me, I want to go there. Do I go here, right? And I made a gesture, right? She could tell by the gesture. And she responded and just without even like, in Japan, they do this like, what? They do this like kind of like hesitant and kind of like scared, like, oh, like surprised. Nonchalantly, she just looked at me and she goes, oh yeah, just turn here and then the road goes left. I am in the turning lane in Chiang Mai now. This is Chiang Mai. This is even more country than Chiang Mai. So it could have just been one in a million shot, but I'm telling you, wherever I go, I have not had any problem when I spoke English. People at least responded. Very rarely did they say, "Oh, I don't know." Well, I don't know means that they didn't even know, didn't know. Okay, there was one lady yesterday at the market, and I approached her. She was the janitor or something, and I said, "Excuse me," and she did this to me. Okay, so there was one lady, but again, the circumstances was there are foreigners everywhere, and everybody's probably asking her for something. So when I said, "Excuse me," I was going to ask her where the BTS station was. She kind of did this and she ran off. So there was one, but outside of that, no. So let's see. J Star. I think it has to do with military. Chestian Thai. Sometimes what is Chestian versus dubbing? Okay, present or presence. Yeah, Japanese people would just freeze if you speak. Yeah, yeah. Like sometimes they give you that look, right? Like eh. I don't. I'm not. I'm stereotyping and I'm playing with this, so don't take me so seriously when I do this gesture. But yeah, it's kind of like this, and they get all excited, right? Hasn't happened in Thailand. Seriously, if people don't know, they might say I don't know, but there's no like this kind of like frantic like eh. So if you travel in Thailand, at least in the cities, you can always find someone who's going to, speak to you and all. And like I was at the market, and you can see these people are not, the educated crew, the ones who are running those small uh, restaurants, the real simple ones, 50 baht for a meal, right? But they have all their menus in English, and they just turn it over and they show you, and it's very simple. And they can all speak numbers. So when I say in Thai, oh, Tao Dai, they'll tell me 70 baht. They'll speak English back to me. I mean, they use it every day probably, but in Japan, I don't have anybody. If I speak oikura desu ka, they're going to sell to me in, okay, 80 yen or so, whatever it is. Does it happen? So there is a natural ability that the Thais have become accustomed to just, if they know English, they're just going to speak it to you, which makes it really easier if you're traveling to Thailand. So anyway, that's my English thing about, yes, Thailand, English is much higher. And so in Japan, that tells you how do they teach English in Thailand? Is it more interactive? Is it more about speaking it right? If it is, then that's the system that Japan needs to adopt or try to move to get more of its people. But again, it also has to do with being an island country. And I talked about sakoku mind, meaning like being isolated for so many years and never being conquered or occupied except by the United States after World War II, has created a kind of like a very insular culture. And that has affected the ability to, or opportunities to speak English. They haven't had that many people, right? Because they're an island, like the UK in a sense, they're an island nation. So that also has to do with it too, historically. I do want to talk a little bit about the BTS, which is the Sky Train, okay? Now back, I think it was 1999, it was built. And a lot of people were complaining that time. I talked about this, I think, before also, where it was kind of an eyesore, they thought, to put that. And, the construction was, blocking traffic. It was crazy. But they finished it. Today, no one even complains at all. In fact, everybody's so happy it's there because before you had to use taxi or motorcycle taxi, motosai as they call it, and you couldn't get to your destination on time. You were always late. The SkyTrain allows you to bypass all of that. And when I came in, I think it was 2004, the SkyTrain was empty because Thais were not used to riding the SkyTrain. They were still using the motorcycle and they told me, oh, too tired because you have to walk up this kind of steep stairs to get to the station. They do have elevators, but most people walk. And another thing about the Thai stairs at the BTS and in general, they're higher. Like in Japan, they're more and I'm not that tall or anything, but the Japanese steps fit me. It's easy to walk down or up. The Thai steps, I don't know why, but they're taller, the step itself. So it takes more. So even for me, if I'm climbing or coming down, there seems to be a much bigger, harder work going up and more stress on the knee when you come down. I don't know why, but anyway, that's an irrelevant point. But But a couple of things about the BTS. Okay, so today it's accepted. Everybody, it's crowded during the morning and during rush hour in the evening. It's crowded, but not like Japan. People, there's when you go on, it's crowded, but there's still space. It's not like Japan where you're packed in. So I don't know if that's because they're still young yet using trains, or um, there are not that many people like Japan that are packed into the train, but there is space. And there are people who wait. Like they see it's a little too crowded, they'll let people go on and they don't want to be, or they want to get a seat, then they will stand on the side and other people will get on. So yes, the other thing is it's really cold. So people who like cold trains, like Japan's trains are very almost hot. They're kind of almost too warm, right? And they have the mildly conditioned and they have the regular, but even the regular for most foreigners is still too warm. The Thai BTS train is like super cold. I actually get super cold in the train because you come off, it's hot, right? It was yesterday, it was 90 degrees, 34 degrees centigrade, almost 90 degrees. You get on, it's refreshing to feel the cool air, but then after a while it gets cold. So that's another big difference I saw, that it gets cold. Another thing that was interesting to me is that toilets, I'm Mr. Toilet, right? Because I'm always worried about where is the toilet. There are no toilets in the BTS stations. Like in Japan, all the train stations have toilets, of course. It's like expected, right? No toilets. Now the MRT, I found out by using it a couple nights ago, does have toilets, and that's a newer, construction project. But the BTS does not have toilets. Um, Another interesting thing I found out is that you can use this rabbit card, and I had this from, I don't know, 10 years ago. I can't remember, and I just keep it, and you can, you charge it, and you can just go bing, 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 just like in Japan, the Suica card, right? Only for the BTS. You cannot use this on the MRT. And this is a question that I have for Thai people is, why haven't they connected the BTS and MRT? Because you do a lot of transfer and things. Why don't you, why don't they have the same card, like the Suica card in Japan? There must be some big political or money reason. But the MRT does not have a card first. It only gives a card to those who have a Thai number, which I have a Thai number now because I get the SIM card, but you need a Thai bank account. That means that only people who live in Thailand can get a card for the MRT. That means that every time you gotta have change to buy or go to the window and pay, which sometimes the line is very long depending on what station you're at. So I don't understand the efficiency there. This wonderful BTS, the SkyTrain, the MRT, I still don't understand why they don't have a card, or even a card separately from the BTS for the MRT. No, there's no card unless you live here. So tourists cannot get it. So every time tourists have to be buying, which makes long line, make it inconvenient, takes staff time. I still don't understand. That's something that, wow, efficiency would be, think about it. A lot of people who get the card, I think they pay, I don't know if it's 20 baht for the card itself, and then they put money on it. A lot of people take it with them thinking that they're going to come back, or they forget to get the card and they think, okay, 20 baht, 50 cents or whatever it is, or 70 cents. No big deal. No big deal, right? Think about how much money that the MRT could make, right? Because if 36 million people are expected to come this year, so let's say even a couple million people have their card, forget to change it back, because you get reimbursed at the end for the card, I think it was. And like, let's say $1 on each card. That's a couple $1,000,000. So I'm thinking, like, wouldn't it be more advantageous to make a card and have foreigners have it? And if they take it home, you get to keep that money, I guess, if they never come back, right? Anyway, I don't understand that. So the MRT, the subway, does not have a card, but the BTS does. And a couple other things. On the train itself, when I first came, people were, when I came again in 2010, I think, people were on their cell phones on the train. And I think it was 2010, maybe a little before that. And they were talking really loud. There was no etiquette. Today, there is etiquette. People do not talk on their phones on the SkyTrain or the MRT, which is great, except the foreigners. Yesterday, I was on the train. It was an American guy on the phone. I'm going, doesn't he get it? That you don't talk on the phone with the phone on the train, but he was. Another thing, talking loud on the train, right? In Japan, that's always a big no-no, right? I mean, you can talk, but you're not supposed to talk so loud. And who's talking loud on the trains in Japan? It's the foreigners, especially the white, Caucasian, usually American foreigners. Same on the SkyTrain. Who's talking loud, making noise? It's the American foreigners. So same, concept that, American, you can have fun and talk, but you have to keep the volume down, right? Again, same thing I saw in Japan, I saw on the BTS here in Thailand. Mask, very few people are wearing masks. Even on the train or BTS or MRT, very few people are wearing masks. Some people still do, and I see a lot of people who drive the motorcycle and things, they wear. That's more, I think, about the pollution and things, but very few people wearing masks here. Where in Japan, still a lot of people are wearing masks, especially where I live in the country. When I go to the supermarket, everybody is wearing a mask except me. Okay? Okay. Advertising on the side of the BTS. When I first came, they are ready. This is where Thailand is way ahead of Japan. They are movers and shakers as far as a lot of the business thinking. I remember seeing the advertisements on the side of the BTS train, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea, the marketing, right? You know, Japan just started that a couple of years ago. So again, I think to myself, Japan always did the inside, but they wouldn't do the outside. And maybe that's a aesthetic thing, and maybe it's a Japanese thing, I don't know. But finally, JR and other places have started doing that. But before, Thailand was way ahead. 20 years ago, they were doing it. Japan just started. So that gives you an idea of the movement of Japan. It's slow, it's behind, and they're not risk takers. Where in Thailand, when it comes to like business and things, boom, 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 boom. A lot of it's except the MRT card. I don't know why they don't get an MRT card. So, very different. And of course, English. I talked about this before too in another live stream. The English that I see in Thailand, I've only seen one sign that I thought the English was a little strange, but it wasn't misspelling. It was something about the way they had the grammar. But in Japan, you see misspelled and mistake English all over, all over. In Thailand, rarely do I see English signs or like train signs or something mistake. I don't see misspelling, never. At least I haven't. So again, what's going on there? Why do the Thais have the English, their advertising, their signs, their business signs in correct English, and Japan cannot do it yet? Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, let's see. Carlos goes to the J Star says, I think the English issue has to do with equitability to commerce. Thailand manufactures for others and is also hospitality country. True. And I think it's been part of the continent. Thailand being part of the continent, I think, because you have a lot of interaction. Whereas again, it goes back to Japan being an island country, and they haven't had that exposure. That's why the Japanese culture in a way is very pure. It's very Japanese because then outside of the Mongols trying to invade them twice, and they were sent back because of the typhoons, which became known as the kamikaze, which that symbol or concept became part of World War II and the suicide bombers. That was the only other time that they almost got taken over or conquered or occupied, and it wasn't successful. And so it's only the U.S. government, the U.S. military after World War II. Carlos says maybe BTS. Yeah, I'm sure they're different owners, Carlos. But why, even if you're different owners, wouldn't you set up a system that's user friendly for both? It's a win-win, I would think. But I don't know. There has to be some. I think it's political or something. Japan is great with that. J-Star, thank God the SkyTrain etiquette has evolved. It was 2013. Okay, 2013. Okay. What was 2000? Was it when the behavior has evolved? Maybe that's what you're saying. Yeah. Well, when you came to Thailand, it must be right. Yes. So it's good to see that. Another interesting thing about the BTS is that the way they design it, there's no shelves or racks, right, to put things on. So of course you're holding everything, and then the straps are kind of like in the side, which is okay, and in the middle. So what I found odd is that, or by the door they have one pole with like little handles, just one pole in the middle where the doors are. It means that when you hold the pole, or even if you hold the racks, the straps, you're facing each other, which is really odd to me. A lot of times you end up facing each other instead of facing. In Japan, you'd be facing away usually. You're facing each other for a lot of these. So I don't know the design of the BTS, but I thought, huh, how unusual. And again, I'm comparing to Japan, so maybe this is the correct way and Japan is not doing it right. But anyway, it's different, and the way they have the rack set up, I mean, not the racks, the straps set up, it's different, and it makes people face each other, which is kind of awkward or strange, I thought. But another thing is that the BTS does not rock. It's not going that fast. It's like a monorail system. So even if you don't have hang on, you can kind of balance. When in Japan, a lot of times you better hang on because the tracks are a little bit narrow, so they're a little bit rough. So you could, it's jolty in a way, right? So for the BTS, maybe you don't necessarily need so many straps and all, but I found it just different. Yeah. Okay. Let's moving on. Toilets. I am Mr. Toilet, and I'm always looking for toilets because I want to know where they are. Like sometimes I have, if I drink coffee or water, I gotta go right away. No toilets at the BTS, right? Only at the MRT, as I said before. But at markets, like night markets, I've been to the day market, the night markets, they always have toilets, but they're kind of out of the way. And so the most important sentence you need to know, you can say toilet, most people understand, or, Hongnam, yu, tinai, tinai, utinai, or where is the toilet, right? Hongnam, yu, utinai, very important. But they have toilets. Otherwise, there are some public toilets in different places, but you have to know they're not like out there. You have to kind of know. And some of them charge 5 baht. You can put the coin in and you go in, and then when you come out. So very different about the toilets. Japan's greatest thing for 70, all their convenience stores is 99.9% of Japanese convenience stores offer toilets, right? In fact, that's one of their selling services, that come in and use a toilet and hopefully buy something in Japan. In Thailand, convenience stores don't have toilets or don't let you use the toilets. So that's where Japan, oh, I love Japan for that. You can always go to a convenience store. There's only a couple that I've been to in Japan where it's on a main track or main area that there's too many tourists coming through that they don't let you use the toilet. There have been a couple, two I think I've run into. But outside of the other 10,000, they were all open that you could use their toilet, which is a really nice thing to have, right? And Japan has a lot of public toilets also at the parks, at different places. You can go into buildings. Japan is king of the toilet, which for me is really good. But in Thailand, you have to kind of know where they are. Well, of course, you're in a restaurant or in a food court, there's going to be toilets, or a department store, there's going to be toilets. But when you're walking around in the public area, you have to kind of scout them out. But if you ask, they're usually there, but they're kind of out of the way places that you have to go. Wat's temples, a lot of them have toilets. And I raved about the Chiang Mai toilet when I was there in Chiang Mai, that wow, they were so clean. The monks keep them really clean. But I did visit several other Wats after that, different places, and they're usually clean, but you may not have the Western style. You may have the Thai style toilet, which is the squat style, kind of elevated squat style, and it may not be flush. You may have to use the bun gun, or you have to use water and flush it. So just to let you know that although I raved about the Wat in, I think, Chiang Mai during the night market, there are others that may not be as, they may not have the Western style, if I can put it nicely. Okay, let's see. Plastics in Thailand is really interesting. Everything is in plastic, and I don't know what happens. Now, they try to recycle the plastic bottles like this, but most people just throw it in the regular trash. You see it. But I always try to keep mine separate here, even when they clean the hotel room and things. But everything in Thailand comes in plastic bags, and especially the ones, even if you have like a coffee that comes in like, they put it in a, let's say you buy a coffee like this. Oh, sorry. let's say you buy a coffee like this. They put it in a plastic bag with a little handle so you can hang it on to your motorbike or your bicycle or carry it with you. So everything is in plastic. And I don't know how Thailand does what they do with their plastics. It's like in Hawaii, right? They outlawed the plastic bag. It would never work in Thailand because everything is put in plastic, sometimes two plastics. Like before when I was in Chiang Mai at the market, I get the food in a plastic and I would get the food put into another plastic. Everything had a plastic. And a lot of it is for the handles though, to put on your motorbike or your motorcycle and things. But again, I don't know what they do with their plastics. Japan is trying to phase out and they charge you for, a plastic bag at the supermarket. But in Thailand, they do charge you like 1 baht or 2 baht, but everybody, of course, still takes it because they need it, right? Okay. Food in Thailand. I eat a lot of street food. I like street food, so it's very reasonable. We go to the local markets if I can. So, meals might be between what, 70 baht to 150. So maybe a couple of dollars, two, three, $4, maybe at the most. But you can eat at nicer Thai restaurants, or you can eat Western food, which is really high. You pretty much can get anything, and so it just depends. So hotels and restaurants, if you come to Thailand, you can choose whatever level you want. They have something for everyone. I think that's the nice part about Thailand. You can choose on your budget wherever you want to stay and whatever you want to eat, and there's something for everyone. So that's, I think, the beauty. From the backpacker who's trying to save money and live on $10 a day, which is a little bit tough, I think. I think $10 is a little bit too little, but to the very well-off one, maybe $25 a day is more possible. I think the biggest expense for people, especially men, is the nightlife. And so this time I went to the Pat Pong night market, but I didn't even go to like Nana or Soy Cowboy. A lot of times I like to go and see what's going on. But I can see where, from past experience, the biggest expense for people, especially men, is the nightlife. That's like going to the bars, going to, buying people, girls or guys drinks. Now I saw when I was passing one of the bars that they have live shows, but they want you to pay like a ticket, I guess, before you go in. Whereas before you could just walk in and out. This was at Pet Pong. I don't know if they're all like that. And like, let's say if whatever other special services you ask for, whatever, that's where I think alcohol, bars, girls, that's where a lot of the money goes, I believe. If you stay away from that or you're out of that, like I am now, it's you just have it's not expensive because that's where so much money. And even cannabis, right? Marijuana is legal here, and I didn't go in because what's the fun of doing that alone, right? So I didn't go, and I'm sure that's another cost. So if you're in the party stage, then Thailand can be very expensive. And I think that's where most people think, oh wow, it's like I spent a lot of money. It's there. If you take that out, use public transportation, you eat street food sometimes, it's not expensive. So up to you. But that's what I've learned is that the biggest expense are that kind of entertainment. Now, if you're eating at a Western food every night or you're eating at a high level Thai restaurant every night, it could be expensive. But if you manage, you could go to the supermarket and buy something, eat it at your place, takeout. Takeout is big. Everybody does takeout, and they know the English for that. Takeaway, they usually say. Takeaway or takeout. Or what is it? Glakpan. I forgot the Thai. There's a Thai word. So things like tropical fruits. I love the tropical fruits, and I've tried to eat every one that I could, except durian. I'm still trying to find a place that I can just buy a small piece because I didn't want to buy the expensive part. But I do want to learn to like durian also. Anyway, I eat the fruits, whether it's guava or just watermelon or whatever it is. Every single day, and it's reasonable, it's cheap, it's fresh, or you can get a smoothie, right? Like a watermelon smoothie or a mango smoothie. and it's like 50 baht or something, like roughly about 50 baht. What is that? Little less than $2. Every day I eat that. Every day I eat fruits. I have a refrigerator here, so I store the fruits if I can. That's one of the nicest things. If you like fruits, wow, because in Japan, fruits are the most expensive, right? Japanese vegetables are cheap, but fruits are expensive. But in Thailand, I've been not buying too many vegetables because I don't have I didn't want to store them. But but fruits, every day I eat fruits or a smoothie or both, and very, very reasonable. So for a vegetarian, if you're vegetarian or you're very strict halal, they have like the fruits and some of the vegetables, but I think it's kind of difficult in a lot of ways because a lot of the food has, whether it's a pork base or fish base or something. So it depends on how strict you are. I think it can be a little bit difficult for vegetarians or people who are strictly halal. Maybe more in the south area if you're halal, because there's more Muslims down in the southern provinces. Of course, you can find many more halal restaurants there. But as far as here in Bangkok, you can find them, but it's not as easy. Street food is pretty much a lot of it is out, I think, because a lot of it is meat based, I think. So you do want to think about that if you do. At the market, what is it called? The Chak market, the largest market in Thailand. I went yesterday. It's unbelievable. It's almost exhausting and overwhelming because there's so much there. But I did see one restaurant that said vegetarian restaurant, but it was way kind of in the pocket. You would have to find it. But outside of that, it would be kind of difficult to find just food for, if you're strictly vegetarian. So you might want to be careful about that. Safety, even Bangkok, as crazy as it is. And you know what the craziest things about Bangkok is, and this is what I said in the previous live stream, is the traffic. It's the motorcycles. You have to be careful. Now, not that many people are renting motorcycles or bicycles here in Bangkok. They're using public transportation. But like in Phuket, you almost had to have a motorcycle or some kind of transportation on your own because there's no public transportation. Even Chiang Mai, a lot of people rent motorcycles or motorbikes. I had a bicycle, but most people, they're not riding a bicycle, they're riding a motorcycle. And as I said before also, 75% of all accidents in Thailand, 15,000 people die every year because due to motorcycle or motor scooter, anything to do with the motor scooter, motorcycle family. That's where 15,000 people die. Over 1,000 foreigners die every year. 2.8 foreigners die each day from a motorcycle or motorbike or motor scooter accident. So you want to be extremely careful. That is the main danger in Thailand. And crossing the street, like here in Bangkok. I crossed the street to go to the supermarket, Tops. Even when it says green to cross, people are going, especially the motorbikes. They don't pay attention. Green doesn't mean, red for them doesn't mean stop. It means go if you can. That's what it means, almost like. So there were a couple of times that thinking that it's walk for me, I start walking and I hear this motorbike just pass me by, like really close. You have to be always aware when you cross the street. And maybe having the signal makes it even more dangerous because you have a reassurance that you're thinking like, okay, now it's safe to walk. You try to walk and it's still going. I saw last night when I was coming back, the light was red for them and green for me, and this big SUV, he came flying through. Red light for him now. Didn't matter. It wasn't even close to the yellow. And I also think there's a problem with the yellow light. They usually have a countdown system where it's 20, 19, 18, so you kind of know, right? To give people the warning, like when to walk or when to go. And the yellow light is very, very short. So I think a lot of people, they go through even when it's red. So that also could be a problem. But crossing the street, motorcycles in Thailand is the biggest danger. As far as general crime, very uncommon. I'm sure they have crime in the nightlife districts, the drinking areas, the red light districts. Yes, I'm sure there's a lot more crime. But in general, I'm here in this business area, nothing going on. Even walking down the street by yourself at night, dark street, very, very little crime. And that's nice that women, alone can still walk the streets just like in Japan. So crime, very, very good. In Chiang Mai, I didn't see any, crime outside of traffic accidents. So that's the only thing that you have to be careful. So, all in all, this last 6 weeks, I've learned a lot. about that Thailand is really an amazing place. And for those of you who have traveled to Japan and feel like, okay, I want to take my next step, try something a little more exotic maybe, I think Thailand's a good step after Japan. So if you've never traveled abroad or to Asia, you may want to do Japan as your first step because it's safe, it's clean, it's easy. Okay, cleanliness. That is a big point. Big plus. Okay, Japan. Customer service, cleanliness, toilets. Number one in the world probably. Thailand, customer service, depending on who you meet, right? Cleanliness, not that clean, not the streets in general. You have a lot of street vendors there, so a lot of the food gets dumped in the drains, or you can see at night they have the garbage bags out for the garbage trucks to come through and pick them up. Well, there are rats around those garbage. I just saw one last night when I was walking back. I don't walk close to the garbage that's left on the side for the garbage trucks because you see the rats. So yes, there is that part that, maybe it's a little bit hard to stomach at times, but that's what it is. So that's in the streets. Yes, you do see rats sometimes running around. In Chiang Mai, I did see some rats also. So, I'll leave that up to you. But again, so cleanliness, not always. But in the hotel and the other places, no problem. It's outside on the streets because there's a lot of food out there and, tropical weather, animals or insects don't die. You also have like ants sometimes. In this one, I didn't see any, but in Chiang Mai, I did see little ants sometimes, a couple spiders, but it's you're in the tropics. You can't do anything much about that. Uh, Taxi metering was something that I noticed before when I came before the pandemic. All taxis were on meter, which was great. You knew what you're going to pay. It was very simple. Now most taxis don't do metering anymore. You have to negotiate. So all transportation outside of public transportation, like the BTS, the bus, there is a bus service. I haven't taken that yet, but the MRT, the subway. Outside of those, you have to negotiate taxis, or you have to negotiate with the motorcycle taxis. Now, I always thought the motorcycle taxis were really dangerous, but as I said in my last live stream, my friend from Phuket, she's very safe and very, very well off and everything, but she uses them, for short distances, and she said it's faster and easier. And she says that she uses their helmet. And I said this before in another live stream, but she gets one of the shampoo caps, those that are disposable from different hotels, and she carries one with her all the time. And then she puts it on and then puts the helmet above on because who knows who's used that helmet, right? And then she puts on the helmet and she uses a motorcycle. So when I came to Bangkok, I said, okay, I can do that too, because I was avoiding it because a lot of people told me, oh, it's dangerous, Mike, it's dangerous. And it is kind of dangerous compared to a taxi, but it's faster because the taxis are cars, they're slow. So when I went to see the Buddha relics that the Chinese have enshrined or lent to Thailand for 2 months. I went to that. Lots of people. I took a motorcycle, they call it, motorcycle taxi. He didn't offer me a helmet. He didn't have a helmet, so I just got on without a helmet. So, I felt a little bit like I wish I had a helmet just in case. And yeah, he was swerving and going through traffic and going around, and it's a wild ride. It's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's kind of exciting, but if anything happened, you're toast in a way, So, but again, I trust them more than like the foreigners driving in Phuket who are trying to either show off or don't know the roads or just trying to go fast. I trust the motorcycle taxis guys who are professionals more than the foreigners who are renting a motorcycle or motorbike or motor scooter or whatever it is. So, but yes, everything's negotiable. You have to negotiate. So what I would suggest to people is that I always ask the front desk or someone that I know or trust that I said, from here to here, if I use the motorcycle taxi, how much does it cost? Or the taxi, how much does it cost? So you have a ballpark figure. And then at least you know where you can negotiate or what's the price, right? And I even asked him, I said, the other night I took it, I didn't know the price. I wasn't planning to take the motorcycle taxi, but I decided to. And I said, he asked me, right? This is a great question. How much do you want to pay? Just setting it up, right? Well, I don't know, right? So I said, no, how much? So I turned it back on him. I said, no, what do you charge? Because if not, I tell him I'm taking the SkyTrain. And he tells me, I think he said 80 or 70. Oh, 70, I think he said 70. And I said, no. Then he said, then he said, how much? And I said, so I said 40, taking like, and then he goes, no, cannot. If he goes 50, I said, no, 40. And then he said to me, same, like 40 and 50 are the same. Anyway, I said, fine. So I got on, I got to a stop. I came back, asked the front desk person down, like, he's Thai. What is the cost? And then he told me, like, oh, it varies. And he said he was doing the same route the other time, and they asked him, who's Thai, for 80 baht, 80. I said, what? I said, why so? I said, even Thai people? He goes, yeah, even Thai people. You don't know what they're going to charge you depending on what time of day and, everything. So I said, I paid 50. And he goes, oh, good price. So I was happy, right? I got a decent price. But again, unless you don't know what to bargain with, right? You don't know where the range is. At least if you have a kind of an idea, you can go a little higher or a little lower or whatever, right? And you know how to negotiate. So so again, public transportation in Bangkok is negotiable, which sometimes is trouble. Tuk-tuks, as people always say, they're the worst. They will charge you the most. They will try and get as much as they can from you. But people want to do the tuk-tuk experience, right? You're a tourist, you want to take your Instagram moment, you take the tuk-tuk. Also, if you only have one person, motorcycle is the best. But if you have three, instead of taking three people on a motorcycle, then a tuk-tuk can sit, 3 to 4? Or if you have a lot of baggage, they can usually sit. Then a tuk-tuk can work for you. But they will charge you more, and they're really kind of noisy. And they are kind of dangerous if they ever get into an accident because they're open. But a lot of people like to use those. So after 6 weeks, I would say I really like Thailand. And I plan to come back next year, study Thai again. As I said in a couple of the live streams, Thai language is so super hard, but I want to try again. And after 1 month of studying Thai, I feel like I can construct certain sentences, but to speak it or to understand what people are saying, almost impossible. And at this point, and if you live in Phuket or Bangkok, if you try to speak Thai, people are going to answer you in English because they're not wasting their time, But in Chiang Mai or Chiang Mai, not that many people speak English that well, or they have more time. They're more, probably available to speak to you back in Thai, which is nice because at least you get to try, right? So living in a modern urban city works for you as far as getting around, but if you want to learn Thai, maybe a little bit difficult, right? Unless you get a Thai boyfriend or Thai girlfriend that doesn't speak English and then you struggle through that. I don't know. Anyway, that's another thing. So if there's no more comments, I just wanted to say, like, highly recommend coming to Thailand. Highly recommend for those of you who have never been to Asia to come to Japan first, and then when you feel like you've got your, what do you call those? Your sailing feet. What do they call when you go on the boat? You get your legs, your sailing legs, that you feel good about traveling. Try Thailand, and you can stay in as nice a hotel as you want. You don't have to worry about the rats if you are staying in nice hotels and you're staying in that like Sukhumvit nice area. No rats usually, but again, that's all part of the experience for me too. I hope that some of you will make it here. I find that people are extremely kind and gracious, humble. I don't see conflict. I don't see people fighting or yelling at each other. Again, this is outside of the red light district, right? In the nightlife area, anything goes there. But outside of the nightlife and red light districts, it's just business as usual. People are really nice, kind, I think very honest. Yes, you might get scammed a little on the sales at markets or the negotiating with a tuk-tuk driver or a motorcycle person. But again, it's so minimal, right? Maybe they got 10 baht from you. What is that, 30 cents? When you look at it from the big perspective, what is 30 cents? Even a dollar, right? It sounds big in baht, or 30 baht, a dollar. So it's really up to you. And the dollar is very strong now against the baht. So it's a good time to come to Thailand if you can. The best season is now, from November until February. It's the best time to come. So it's the most crowded and prices are a little higher. If you want to come during the rainy season, prices are less, they say. But again, it rains almost every day, like a monsoon, and then it clears, and then in Chiang Mai, you don't want to go during the smoky season, and that's February through April. So you have to look at the calendar if you're going to go, depending on where you're going to go, and make your plan from there. So I want to thank all of you for joining me. Tonight, I return back to Japan, and hopefully my next live stream is from Japan, about maybe things that I realized when I got back to Japan that were so different. I do want to say that I do appreciate Japan's, one, that they have so many toilets, public toilets around. Two, their customer service. Three, that people will pay attention to you and they will make sure that they will follow through. It's like a counter service kind of thing. Japan does that so well, and that cleanliness, so clean. Even big cities in Japan, so clean, so well taken care of. Japan, attention to detail, they do that so well with little things, as plants, just design and things. I do appreciate when I come to different countries that, wow, Japan, they get it. The public transportation in Japan, although crowded, but again, SkyTrain and MRT, they were so frequent that I didn't even have to wait hardly. So well thought out, and anyway, a lot of similarities and a lot of differences between Japan and Thailand, or for that matter, United States, even farther away, right? Service, boo. Cost of in America, too expensive, boo. So it's your choice of where you want to go. But I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you for those of you who wrote something in the comments, or answered to questions to people who asked or made comments. Hopefully I'll talk to you again next week from Japan. Signing off from after 6 weeks in Thailand. A great 6 weeks. Learned a lot, and although, one more last thing. As you get older, it gets harder to travel. For example, I was flying within Thailand. If you're over 65, you cannot sit at the emergency section row. And I went to this big thing with them about that, and they said no. So just be mindful that there are certain rules in Thailand that work against you if you're over 65, and that you can't sit at the emergency exit row. So just that. And I'm flying home on Peach Airlines. It's a low-cost carrier. I flew here on Thai Viet Jet to Chiang Mai, which is a direct flight from Kansai Airport to Chiang Mai. It wasn't such a good experience. 3 out of the 4 toilets weren't working well, but it was the only direct flight. That was nice. I didn't have to come through Bangkok. Going home, I'm flying here out on Peach Airlines, which is an LCC, but it's a Japanese low-cost carrier. So I'm going to compare the two, the Japanese LCC versus the Thai LCC, and see the difference. I'm expecting that Peach Airlines would be at a much higher level and brand, and we will see when I fly tonight. So take care. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next live stream from Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. Take care, and again, thanks again for staying with me through the last month, 6 weeks here in Thailand. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.